Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast celebrating the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. And for season 2, we are diving into Blazing Saddles, one out in the middle of the desert, big band orchestra at a time. I'm Alan Sanders, your host.
I am Walt Murray, your co-host.
And it's our pleasure to welcome back from the West Coast, Professor Robert E.G. Black. Robert, welcome.
Thank you for having me back again.
This is fantastic. It's a Monday, a brand new week, and we're going to kick things off where we left off. We're going to start off in the governor's office with him wishing the fellows good luck as he then unzips his pants and starts to head toward the curtain. But then we get a fantastic desert shot of Bart on his horse as an orchestra plays.
That is true, Alan.
Wow. I was just...
That's not what I had for my
You didn't
this is minute 26, right?
Yeah. Did you?
I had we're introduced to Sheriff Brackett and Lori gets home after her walk with Annie and Linda. What movie is this?
Huh?
Wait, I have another one. Greg and Bryn find a booby trap that confirms that Jane wasn't a fluke and the maze is dangerous.
We're getting warmer.
Closer, okay.
At least they had a movie thing going on in that one.
Lisa just got Johnny drunk, and she's going to accuse him of hitting her. Is that this movie?
No. That's
Okay.
no.
Phil gets off the phone with the local operator and breaks a pencil.
No, but he does that a lot.
Well, no, he only does it once.
Well, depends how many times you've seen it. Somebody I know has seen it 365 times
True.
in a row.
Let's see. Neil is telling off Dell, and he says, when you're telling these little stories, here's an idea, have a point.
We just passed the holidays, so that one is...
There's an idea.
Is out. Though that is one of my favorite movies.
Have a point.
Let's see, I could go more obscure. Richard's old professor explains how objects can draw us through time.
Is that Major League?
Yeah. I got one.
Major League.
That is somewhere in time.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's see.
1941.
Major League. Ming just killed Prince Thune.
All the President's Men.
And Flash calls him a psycho.
Flash calls him a psycho. Was that the actual Sam Jones, or was that the dub Sam Jones?
No, that was Smokey and the Bandit. Flash is the dog.
I'm not sure if any of the actual Sam Jones made it into the movie.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's the dub.
Let's see. The Misfits and Saturday Detention are finally talking to each other. That's minute 26.
Oh, is that how long it takes for them to finally start chatting after being caught for detention?
All of them, yeah. Like a couple talk before that, but that's when they start to actually have a conversation.
This is awesome. We're going to have a game. How many people can reference the movie you're dropping in minute 26? I gave you way too much planning time.
Pee-wee's got to get laid.
What is something Alan says every night? For 500, Alex. And my name's not Pee-wee, but that's still the phrase I use.
Indy, Short Round, and Willie find out about the missing stones, so we get a MacGuffin.
What are movies that never should have been made for?
No, that one's not as bad as, let's say, Where Was the Skull Kept?
Well, good point.
Uncle Owen demands that Luke remain on the farm for another season, and Luke goes outside to stare at the horizon.
Look, it's just another season. Yeah, that's what you said when Biggs left.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Seems like I'm
going
nowhere. Our friends last week from the Star Wars Minute would have appreciated that minute 26.
Let's see. Mark reads Nora's latest Eat Me, Beat Me letter. Anyone? Someone just got that listening.
I think Alan's seen that movie.
I
but,
don't know.
The
he
letter
won't
ends
admit
with
to
push me, pull me, talk hard.
Huh. No, not familiar.
And the editing in this minute is amazing because they're obviously not in the same room. He's broadcasting radio. She's listening, but it's edited like they're having a conversation with each other. It's really cool.
Oh, is this about a pirate radio with a very young and upcoming star that was a
Pump up
flash
the
in the
volume,
pan
yeah.
for about a decade?
Yeah.
Okay. I have seen it then. But I think I've only seen it once.
And Harmony has just rejected Harry, and we get the title card, Day 2, which sets us up for a stakeout.
Oh.
Stakeout.
Nope.
Too obvious, Walt. Too obvious.
Jaws.
Jaws.
Jaws. I don't think it's a stakeout if you're on a boat just waiting for a shark.
The shark looks at them all like steak, but I mean, but that would be way later in the movie, Walt. Come on, get your timeline.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I'm at a loss on that one.
That is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, yeah. That was what's his face? It was Iron Man.
Yes.
Robert Downey Jr.
Mm-hmm. And one more. Colonel Troutman.
Hello. Someone home?
Wait for the background noise to go away. Colonel Troutman knows something is not kosher with Murdoch as the presumed dead Rambo disembarks from his riverboat. Oh, the name might give it away.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Rocky Part 3.
Pretty close.
Oh, God. I felt like I was right there.
Riverboat 2, The Rivering.
Something that I also find myself saying with the wife on the river, if the boats are rocking, don't come knocking.
Where is she when that's going on?
I have no idea. I'm usually left with Han Solo.
Oh, brought the puns.
Hello, Han.
Oh.
So, want to see who shoots first? This is going to end up being the strangest episode so far this season.
Well, I have two questions for you. One, what song is the band playing?
Walt, would you care to take that?
Well, it's way down in my notes, but that is The Great April in Paris.
Okay, now, keeping that title in mind, what day is this episode going up?
This episode is actually going to go live on the first day of April.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's why you were playing April Fool's jokes on us.
I deliberately did
Wait
not
a minute.
prepare
See?
for this minute.
I'm smart eventually.
I couldn't help but watch the entire movie last night, but otherwise I didn't look at this minute again.
Well, how many times do you think you've watched this movie?
All the way through? Only a handful. 5 or 6 maybe.
Is it growing on you, or is it not one of those movies that you would go back to?
It's actually one of those movies that goes a little too fast. Like I watch it and it feels slight, and so I don't go back to it. It's entertaining, and I thinking about it today with minute 27, which we'll get to tomorrow. I have serious things to say about it, and I like it, but it's not one that I come back to a lot. We didn't own it when I was young, so Young Frankenstein was my Mel Brooks movie.
Ah, fair enough. If you, I don't know if you're familiar, if you've pulled up many quotes of Mel Brooks talking about how Some Like It Hot is often considered the funniest comedy ever made from Hollywood. A lot of lists will list that as the number one. Yeah. And he always gets irked and says, no, that's not the number one comedy. It's Blazing Saddles. And then he always says, followed by Blazing Saddles, followed by Blazing Saddles, followed by Blazing Saddles, and then maybe after that, Young Frankenstein.
I think Some Like It Hot should be in the top 5.
He feels pretty specific about this being the funniest movie that Hollywood has ever put out. Not that he's got anything personally invested in it. He just believes it.
Yeah. Well, it is funny. Funny and good are two different ways of measuring it. It's really funny.
Yeah. It is as far as a Gene Wilder movie from start to finish, because of the message, because it is funny, because it really does a lot on so many layers, And because Mel Brooks was still smart enough at this point in his career to not date himself with putting too many cultural references that would have been funny to the movie audience of the 70s, but may have been lost in time. Some of the mistakes that I think he made with some of his later parodies or satires. This one, I think, still has that timeless quality, much like Young Frankenstein does.
Yeah, their cultural references are older than when the movie's coming out, so they work if you remember them or you look them up. They're not of that moment, so
So, all right. Well, in all sincerity, we do break down this minute where there is, except for the very, very beginning, which, Walt, is the last minute we left off from Friday, as the guys are walking off. If you remember, before the line that we get here, we basically heard Governor Lepetamain say, especially the funeral, meaning, when Headley says, I'll take care of all of the arrangements, and especially the funeral. And then he wishes him good luck, gentlemen, as he unzips his fly, lets his pants drop, and head to the curtain. That's the only dialogue we have in this entire minute.
Yeah, and then we do get treated to some great music, but it is the only line in this minute.
Yeah,
and it was something that I didn't catch in my preparation for the last minute 25. The zipper sound. We're set in 1874, but did you know that zippers were not invented until 1893 when they were released at the World's Fair?
Oh my God, we totally missed that with the zipper effect coming up when he came out of the curtain earlier last week. You're right.
They were technically invented in 1851, but they weren't marketed, and then they were released in 1893. But the modern zipper was not even invented until 1913.
Well, look at you. Someone's been an eager beaver today, or was a slow day at work?
No, it was not a slow day at work. But, when you dive in and you start learning the history of the zipper, it's so fascinating that you can't help but get down. And actually, those were in a bullet point timeline that I found. So,
and what's funny is you never mentioned the history of the zipper the entire time that there was one on the side of Frankenstein's monster.
I know, and I don't know how we missed that. But
I mean, we didn't miss the zipper. We just didn't talk about the history of the zipper.
But we can safely say that by 1973, the zipper was invented and was in broad use.
Yes, when they were filming this before its January 1974 limited release, followed by wide release in February of 74. Yep. I think everybody would probably have had more zippers than buttons.
Yeah, I would say so. Where at this time, everybody would have had buttons in their zippers. So
remember the big thing in the late 80s, early 90s, the whole Levi's bringing back the button fly?
Yeah.
God, I hated those.
Yeah.
Well, I was always like, hey, if you're in a rush, you're going to have a big problem.
No, you just yank really hard.
And they'll pop off. But, I just hated those. You're sitting there at the having finished your, doing God's work at the urinal, and you're like, it looks like you're, examining yourself, trying to button your pants instead of just zip, done. You had to button 4 or 5 buttons. I was just, I never liked them.
Thought, why make things harder?
Well, it depends what we're talking about.
Okay, good point. I stand corrected.
Don't forget, this is our April Fool's episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That we're gonna be, that's our disclaimer for the rest of this episode. So all right, we do a dissolve about second 8 and into second 9. We're coming up on the Gucci logo. Anybody know anything about Gucci?
Okay, so here's another problem that we've got here. The Gucci company was founded by Guccio Gucci in 1921.
Yeah, and it wasn't even in America.
Yeah, Florence, Italy.
So a little anachronistic here. The Gucci bag.
Well, unlike the zipper, I think this one's on purpose.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, I'll go with that. But I think it's hilarious.
It was so funny because, growing up, Walt, in the 70s and 80s like I was, that was like the big hot name. Like, you did not get any higher end brand than Gucci leather.
Oh, no. And they have something called a saddlebag. It is not made out of leather and whatever. it runs $950 now. So Gucci it's high-end stuff. It's not your low-level Walmart bag.
No,
but
you're not going to find it at any box store.
And you're also not going to find them at most farming or horse stores. I could not find a saddlebag like that. They have a couple things they call saddlebags, but they're nothing close to what he's got.
Well, this is obviously a custom made for our new sheriff of Rock Ridge. He's got nothing but the best.
Well, did you know that? And this is just kind of a weird fact. Did you know that Gucci made the most expensive pair of jeans in history?
I did not know that.
It was, and this is always funny to me. It was a pair of jeans. You know how they make jeans look like they're old and worn out, and they got holes in them and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they call them depressed jeans or something. So this was in 1998. Guess how much this pair of jeans sold for?
$2,000.
$3,134.
Wow.
And you can still get Wranglers for $17. Mm-hmm. So
for the discount shopper out there.
That's right. So
now, you said you couldn't find any Gucci bags, like saddlebags, at least when you just look now. But I don't know if you knew this, but when he first founded Gucci, he was literally selling leather bags to horsemen.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that.
Yeah, it actually started off in the 1920s after he established his shop in Florence. A lot of horsemen would need something, then he would create these leather bags. And he rapidly built the reputation for hiring the best craftsmen that could be as leather workers. And by 1938, he expanded his business to Rome. So it started to grow pretty much from the 20s into the 30s, but it took 38 before he went to Rome. And soon his one-man business turned into a family business when his sons Aldo, Vasco, Ugo, and Rodolfo, former actor, joined the company.
Well, I didn't know this. They have 500 stores around the world. So I didn't realize that they were that big.
They've continued building, I guess. Their empire.
Yeah.
Now, they can't be as... I'm sure they're still high-end to this day, but I don't think they're the... I wonder how many people would just know that name and associate it with high-end leather goods.
Well, in the 90s, at least, that was still... Gucci was like a slang for good things. And I think it might still be... But I don't know if Gucci actually is still the high end that it used to be.
Well, I know it's expensive. I was looking on eBay and Craigslist, and man, Gucci labeled stuff is ridiculously expensive.
Well, I know I've never been able to afford anything with the name Gucci on it, but then nothing with the name Tiffany either. So,
no, I can safely say I've never shopped at a Gucci store.
I've been in a Gucci store. I did inventory at one.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was in Beverly Hills.
Do you know what the prices ran? Do you remember?
A lot.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
More than I made in a year.
Now, there is a guy out in front of the Chevron station near my house that sells Gucci bags at a big discount.
How's it spelled?
C-U-C-O.
Wait, no, that's Coochie, and that means something completely different, Walt.
It does.
Walt, this is family friendly. Keep it that way.
Man, I am walking right into these double entendres today.
Not even paying attention.
I got to get my brain in the gutter to keep up.
Well, I've always said if it wasn't for the gutter, I would have no idea where my mind was.
Got to catch it.
Well, as we, by the way, the Gucci, you talked about the song that we were hearing, the Count Basie song, we don't know necessarily that it's Count Basie, but it is a big band song that we're hearing. I love it because it really does tie this all together, this scene, because the camera slowly pans up. I have never seen anybody in a cowboy movie wearing a suede-looking cowboy leisure suit.
Well, it is definitely a big step up from what he was wearing in the last minute, because he was wearing a frayed vest, frayed shirt, frayed pants, looked like the Incredible Hulk's pants, and some beat up boots. So he has taken a big step up. That sheriff's salary must really be nice.
Well, okay, that's the question I actually have. I mean, because beyond the visual gag, because this is a great visual gag. He's wearing a 70s type lounge suit. He's got silver-handled pistols. He's got Gucci bags. And we'll talk about his horse here in just a minute. Did Hedley Lamar do this? Or, like, where did he get all the money?
He put it all on credit.
You know what? I could almost see the scene where he somehow has this bill circling back around.
He's like, I got a job. I need some new duds.
No, he got the sheriff's department credit card and went to town on it.
Now, I actively tried to be unprepared, but I couldn't help but see scrolling through the script that he's supposed to be wearing white.
Right. This is definitely a change from the description that we have.
I
think I
better,
like this
and
better.
I would assume from a production standpoint, white in that environment would be terrible.
And it was going to be more true to form. They wanted him to look more like a Doc Holliday kind of almost formal suit rather than sort of this leisure jumpsuit.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting.
This whole scene, this whole insert, and Walt, thankfully, we had a chance to speak with Burton Gilliam. He told us that they tried to knock this out in about 90 minutes, but that these guys were sweating so bad, even though it was only a 90-minute shot, that just being out in the desert, getting them all set up, getting them off the bus, which was just off camera, that apparently it was just brutally hot this day for this take.
I bet those guys couldn't get out of there fast enough.
No, so...
And, they're in the black heavy jackets, and that had to be brutal.
And if you think about it, this scene, I mean, it takes a few seconds before we even get into it. But when the camera pulls up at about 11 seconds into this minute, it almost ends. We're going to finish this scene tomorrow, but it's basically about a minute and a half of screen time, and it still took about 90 minutes for them to set this all up. I mean, from the not the piano and stuff, they all took care of that before the musician showed up. It took 90 minutes from when they were ready to start rolling to the time they finished shooting this one particular shot.
That's crazy.
So for you folks who want to get in Hollywood, that's the kind of pace on most films.
Yeah, sometimes worse.
Sometimes a lot worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes worse.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. The shot of him right before he comes up to Count Basie, that is used loosely in some of the advertising in some of the foreign markets. And they show him in that suit with sunglasses.
A lot of the posters, yeah, with mirrored sunglasses of the 70s.
Yeah, and I have not seen that anywhere in any of the outtakes or anything. I don't think he's wearing sunglasses.
He never wears that I'm aware of. In the script, but he never does it in the film at all.
Well, in the script, I think he is.
Oh, so the script has it. I wonder if they
think
did the promotional stuff before the movie was
Maybe they
finished.
did a promotional
Yeah,
shot.
see, our guest here is jumping forward into the minute tomorrow that actually in the script would address his approach.
I would never do
But
that.
since we're doing that and we're shooting a little out of order, like movies are often shot out of order, why not?
Breaking away.
I don't even know what movie
you
this
should
is.
try that sometime. Find a movie that nobody's seen and randomly break it up into bits and have them talk about it.
It would never work.
Yeah. And you know what you could call it? Dave Made a Minute.
That would be fun.
Well, the reason I'm thinking about that is could go with a movie that might be called Dave Made a Maze.
That's a weirdly specific title.
Yeah. Great title. So all you got to do is find somebody to make a movie called Dave Made a Maze. Then you can make a podcast called Dave Made a Minute about the movie Dave Made a Maze, and then go find a bunch of people dumb enough to actually be in it.
You and Walt would probably do it.
Walt, I would.
I don't know. We'd have to check our schedule.
Yeah. I don't even think we would stop to ask ourselves. We would just do it.
I don't know. That sounds a little absurd for us. By the way, you can find us on the Dave Made a Minute podcast on Minutes. Something obscure. We are.
Oh, we're on several minutes, actually. So great plug for that project, by the way, folks. It's April 1st, but it wasn't an April Fool's joke. What we just talked about was actually one of Robert's most recent wrapped productions as of the time of this recording, was a movie that, you know, has been slowly growing. Even though it was an independent release, it's still gaining notoriety, and it was a very fun project to be on.
Yeah, and you two were in, let's see, minutes 4, 18, 42, 43, and thought you were one more 70.
And we had absolutely
Yeah.
no idea what was going on.
70 something. Was it 70 itself?
It was 70, and then you, Alan, came back for a few more later.
Couple more, yeah. Excellent. Check it out, folks. It is actually a pretty fun experiment, especially if you get a chance to see the movie, which is really, really clever on its use of set design and production design. I think it's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the fun thing for us was that we had not seen the movie when we did the minutes. We'd only seen the minutes that we were doing.
Well, technically everybody was supposed to do that, but a couple of people cheated. Some people didn't trust themselves.
Yeah, as far as I know, only one person in the entire, other than me, entire group had actually already seen it when it came up, but I know several watched it before they recorded.
Yeah.
I can honestly
I
tell
watched
you,
it
I
afterwards.
still
It's a good
haven't
movie.
seen it. I've only seen the minutes you've given us.
Yeah, it's actually good. Yeah.
What are you
it's
waiting
good.
for now?
He's waiting for Dave Made a Maze 2, The Maze of Me.
No, I happen to be wrapping up that project as we were ramping up this project after finishing off Christmas Vacation on the heels
True,
of Poltergeist. I didn't exactly have a lot of free time.
It's only 81 minutes long.
I know. And so are these episodes lately. All right. So the horse in this scene, by the way.
There's a horse?
Yes, there is a horse. And according to one source I have, this horse was actually designed to be a horse aid horse.
Design?
Well, he was meant to be a horse aid horse. Like to help other horses. Like he was a cool horse. And if you were trying to break in another horse or get another horse to feel comfortable, you could bring this horse in that would be very calm and easy to try to keep him, other horses from going crazy.
So he's kind of the Slim Pickens of the horse world, that he gives the other horses advice and teaches them how to be on-set horses.
Oh, yeah, he could be. This horse's name is actually Sam.
But most people call him Sam.
He's a palomino. And that's the kind of horse he is, which kind of matches that same kind of that cream-colored coat. Matches very well with the outfit of Sheriff Bart.
And you said his name was Sam? Sam the horse? He's not credited.
Well, he doesn't have any lines.
Oh, that's true.
You guys aren't even interested in this, are you? There's a lot of people not credited over the horse.
He's just a day player.
He's a day player. Oh my God, you guys are terrible. Work with me here, okay?
At some point, his nephew will add him on IMDb.
Yeah, uncredited.
Uncredited, Sam the horse.
So anyway, that's the horse, and if you're ever hearing the term a palomino, this is exactly what Sheriff Bart is riding. That's the kind of horse he is.
Well, he's a convincing rider too. I mean, he's a little uneven in the saddle at times, but he does guide the horse with his feet. I've kind of learned to look at that since our interview with Burton Gilliam, but he does seem to know what he's doing on the horse.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had to show if they had to ride a horse, either they got training or they worked with some of the other actors that were comfortable on around horses. And we found out that Slim Pickens was very, very comfortable, so comfortable that it almost made it look like he wasn't working at his horse, where Lyle, our friend Burton Gilliam, said, I always wanted to make it look like I was, in charge of the horse. But Slim always made it look like there was nothing going on, just him and his horse riding around. He was just made it look too easy. Now, getting back to what a palomino is, because I did want to cover this very quickly. I do like to impart knowledge every now and then, but the palomino is actually a genetic color in horses that consists of a gold coat and a white mane and tail, and the degree of whiteness can vary from bright white to yellow. So any kind of a horse that matches this kind of falls in that palomino category. It's the gold coat, white mane and tail, and it's a beautiful, beautiful horse. I don't know if have you guys ever gone horseback riding?
Now, what year was this horse designed?
It was genetically designed. Go talk to our Blade Runner friends.
Well, the
What
horse
year?
was designed in 1851, but it wasn't
Okay.
marketed until 1893.
Okay.
Oddly similar to the Zipper.
Guys are so stupid. Why am I doing this? I could be upstairs drinking. I'm stuck downstairs in a dingy little office. People don't don't even care about the minute.
Oh, we care.
What do you mean? This is an important minute in the structure of the film because Act 1 has ended and Act 2 is about to begin. This is the transition.
You are
That's right.
absolutely correct. In terms of structure of filmmaking.
And I'll get into it next minute, but this goes into the structure of the Western itself as well.
Well, why don't you address that for a minute in all sincerity? Because you are absolutely right. We've introduced pretty much the cast of characters. We've introduced the plot and the crux of the problem. And now we have a hero.
Mhm.
And that hero is going to be introduced to the rest of the town.
At this point, we still have, 3 characters we'll be introduced to later, but all of the principals are basically here. And the villains are all in place. The conflict is in place. And just like all of my minute 26s that I chose as examples at the beginning of this, it's all like the setup for the plot. We have there's no MacGuffin here exactly, but we have that setup for here's the conflict that is going to drive the rest of the film. They put him in place as a sheriff. That's what sets up first the conflict in town. And then he has to the town has to accept him so that he can then help them get rid of those moneyed interests that are coming.
The scoundrels.
Yeah.
Well, every time I hear MacGuffin, I always think of McGuff the crime dog.
That's fair.
McGruff.
McGruff the crime dog.
So you even hear it wrong. That's awesome.
McGruffin the crime dog.
McGruffin.
No, it's nothing. I hear it wrong. I just don't care. So I just think he's a cool dog, though, because he wears a jacket.
I keep thinking it's something McDonald's is going to market at some point for something for breakfast. Come get your McGuffin.
A MacGuffin? Yeah.
Can I get a McGuffin, a biscuit, and a orange juice,
An egg
please?
MacGuffin.
An egg McGuffin. There you go, an egg McGuffin.
He also sounds like a 1930s, worn out alcoholic detective.
Yeah. I wanted to write a story where the main character was named Mary Sue McGuffin.
And she could be married to John O'Leary McGuffin, the worn out alcoholic detective. I think we're well on our way to a hit here.
Yeah. It doesn't even need details because we have a MacGuffin right at the middle.
That's right.
She could chase herself when we have a plot.
You can even use all of the typical film noir. There she was, the dame, abroad, a skirt, came into my office. You just keep throwing all these different descriptions for the same thing, so it sounds like he's like really cool, Sam Slade.
And she had nothing on but the radio.
Yeah, nothing on but the radio, and I wasn't going to change the dial.
Well, and I bet she was listening to April in Paris by Count Basie.
Count Basie. All right, now.
That is Count Basie, by the way.
It is, yeah. It's actually William James Count Basie. And he was designed August 21st, 1904.
Shut the hell up.
In Red Bank, New Jersey, and died.
That's when he was born. Wasn't he designed?
Well, he was designed 9 months.
9
He
to
was
10 months
designed
earlier.
about 9
Previous to
months
that.
prior to that.
Yes. And he died actually in 1984 in Hollywood, Florida. And, this is a kind of an odd fact about him. He had 7 films where he appeared, and in all 7 films, he appeared as himself. So he never played any other characters. He had 33 albums or releases, and he, of course, was a prolific artist and was very influential in jazz and blues. And it would take all night to go through all of his accomplishments, but he was an amazing artist. And one of his best known songs was April in Paris, which was actually composed by Vernon Duke. And lyrics were written by one of my favorite named people, don't know anything about him. Yip Harburg wrote the lyrics to the song, and it was written in 1932 for a Broadway musical called Walk a Little Faster. April in Paris is a strange song because it has been performed by a ton of different people, among them Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker, Frank Sinatra, Thelonious Monk, Ella Fitzgerald, Benny Goodman, Glenn Miller, and Count Basie is credited as being the most famous version of it. He released it in 1955. And have you listened to that song, the whole song?
I probably have at some point. My grandfather actually had his own 15-piece big band growing up when he immigrated here from Poland. And my dad actually played sax for a while. And so I kind of grew up listening to big band a lot. I didn't know who was who, but I did know when I first saw this movie for the very first time. And actually, I should take that back. When I first saw it for the first time with my parents, which was on TV, my dad was like, "Oh, that's Count Basie." Like, he just knew right off the bat. Not that the name gave it away, but he just knew from the music.
Well, the most famous line or piece of this song was left out in Blazing Saddles, and that's the "Pop Goes the Weasel" portion of it, which is played as a solo. So this is a well-known song, even just for that one little "Pop Goes the Weasel" moment.
Well, you mentioned the films he was in. I did actually write that down. And for folks, if you want to go see him as himself, here are the movies in order. He was first seen in the movie Hit Parade in 1943, followed by Top Man, also in 1943. Then the Sugar Chili Robinson, Billie Holiday, Count Basie and his Sextet movie, which came out in 1950. Cinderfella in 1960. Sex and the Single Girl in 1964. Blazing Saddles here, 1974. And his last known, at least that I could find on film, was Last of the Blue Devils, 1979.
Yep, and that is him. He plays himself really well. It's very convincing.
If you want to look in terms of the Grammys, this guy was a multi-Grammy Award winner in both pop and jazz. In 1958, he won his first Grammy in jazz as Best Jazz Performance by a Group. In 58, he also took Best Pop for Best Performance by a Dance Band. Then in 1960, he won a Grammy for Best Performance by a Band for Dancing. That was also in the pop category. In the pop category in 1963, he won Best Performance by an Orchestra for Dancing. Then back to jazz, and the rest of these are all jazz. 1976, Best Jazz Performance by a Soloist, Instrumental. 77, Best Jazz Performance by a Big Band. 1980, Best Jazz Instrumental Performance Big Band. 82, Best Jazz Instrumental Performance Big Band, and then 84, Best Jazz Instrumental Performance Big Band. So even when, Walt, you and I were in the heyday of the 80s, he was still being recognized for his jazz work by the Grammys.
Well, and it's crazy that here in 1974, he's relegated to playing in front of one guy on a horse in the middle of the desert.
Well, ticket sales were having a hard time.
Yeah, you'd think that he'd
play for
been
anybody.
in a little bit better place by that point, but but this is this is such a.
It's not the best location either.
Yeah, I know, it's really odd. I mean, in the middle of the blazing heat. But this is one of the most oddball things in this movie, but it somehow really works, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I chuckle every time I see it.
It pulls the wool out from under our, pulls the wool over our eyes, pulls the rug out from under our feet. I'll get the analogy correct. Because you think this is the soundtrack.
Right.
And you don't expect to come across the actual guys playing the music in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, it's really absurd. And it kind of gives you a little bit of a view into what Mel Brooks movies are going to become later on. That over-the-top kind of absurd humor. But it's kind of subtly absurd, but it really works. I love this scene.
I love it. It's as a transition from where we were to where we are, reestablishing Bart, and especially putting him in the Gucci bags, putting him on a palomino, putting him in the outfit, it's basically silver-handled guns. I mean, it's fantastic. And then not only are we anachronistic with when the time Count Basie would have been around, but then to do the 1974, which was big, the whole "Give me five, brother."
Yeah.
And he walks up and Count Basie gives him five and then points to him. I mean, it's fantastic. A little snapshot of that, black culture, black music, but also that it was still big band. It was like the music that everyone liked and everyone listened to. So again, Mel Brooks sort of in the background saying, hey, music's music. It doesn't matter what color you are playing it. It's still music, And I love sort of just the whole message of this little transition.
Well, Brooks never really lets us go too long in this movie without reminding us that it's a comedy.
All right. Well, in deference to the fact that this scene will continue into tomorrow, but just a brief minute as it wraps up the flair of the orchestra, the Yeah, I guess they call it the orchestra here. It's a big band, but it's an all, what is it? How many piece band here is it? I guess 16 piece plus Count Basie makes it 17. Before we wrap up this minute, Walt, do you have anything else that we need to chat about here?
No, I think we've pretty well covered this one.
All right. And we talked about a lot of other movies as well, but sticking to Blazing Saddles, Robert, do you have anything else in your notes?
Wait, so you're saying there's a band out in the desert?
We've been through this. I suggest you rewind and go back to 1.
He's still on all those other minutes.
Excellent. Well, Robert, before we tease what's coming up tomorrow, and you're going to be with us for tomorrow's episode as well, where can people learn more about your projects, including the Dave Made a Maze podcast?
You can... Okay, podcast. You got Michael Myers Minute, which ends as the time of this recording. It's ending next week, but it will be over by the time anyone hears this. Where I looked at the original Halloween, 1 minute at a time. There was Dave Made a Minute, which we talked about earlier, where random podcasters were assigned minutes to a movie they hadn't seen. You can find these pretty easily on any podcatcher or social media. And up next for me is The Room Minute, where I look at the Tommy Wiseau modern classic, The Room.
Considered by many one of the worst movies ever made, which makes it one of the fun movies to go and watch 1 minute at a time. Walt, where can people learn a little bit more about where to listen to our podcast? Because apparently they're not listening to it right now.
Apparently not.
That's the joke.
Yes. Like a Count Basie in the desert. You can find us at on any podcatcher, really. I mean, Spotify, the iTunes podcatcher, whatever it's
Apple
called.
Podcast now.
Apple Podcast. Yes, find us on Apple. You find us on the purple icon on your phone. And just about any other place. TuneIn, I think, has us. We're all over the place. So you can find us there. And what we would really appreciate you doing is taking a second to go out and give us a rating. If you like what you're hearing, a 5-star rating would be great. If not, feel free to give us anything you want. And make a quick comment just to help push us.
Don't make us cry, though.
Don't make us cry. Be nice. Be as nice as possible. And still be fair. And that helps other people who are looking for us or Gene Wilder or Blazing Saddles or any of the other movies that we've worked on. Helps them find us and us find them to hopefully create a nice friendship.
All right. And come back tomorrow for Tuesday. We've got another minute here with the orchestra playing. We'll continue with the final notes being played out in the desert. And ironically, we will end with a different band playing a sort of welcome theme in the middle of the heart of downtown Rockridge. But for all of that, you got to come back tomorrow for this, The Wilder Ride.
Pop goes the weasel.
Oh yeah, where does that fit?
It fits somewhere.